On the afternoon of Queen Camilla's 79th birthday, every lens, every royal correspondent, and every front-page camera in the world was pointed at the wrong person. It was July the 17th, 2026, and the sun was setting softly over the ancient manicured grounds of Highgrove Estate. The national press had gathered in full force to capture the Queen as she stepped out for a quiet, intimate family gathering. The official narrative was simple, polished, and carefully curated by the palace press office, a peaceful summer birthday celebration designed to project warmth, stability, and family unity at the heart of the monarchy. While the country watched the woman of the hour receive polite applause and birthday wishes, almost nobody noticed the 11-year-old girl standing slightly apart near the stone garden steps. Princess Charlotte had brought something with her to Highgrove, a small, modest posy of pale blue flowers, tied with a plain, unadorned ribbon, held tightly in both of her hands the exact way a young child holds an object they have been taught deeply matters. They were forget-me-nots. They were Princess Diana's absolute favorite flower. And when Charlotte stepped forward, moving away from the crowd of adults, she did not place those blue flowers on the birthday table alongside the wrapped packages and formal floral arrangements meant for Camilla. Instead, with a quiet, deliberate composure that stunned the few courtiers watching from the perimeter, she walked toward the base of the memorial roses that her father, Prince William, keeps privately at Highgrove. She set the posy down softly onto the earth. In that precise fraction of a second, the entire atmosphere inside that garden changed in a way that no palace strategist, no PR team, and no senior courtier had ever planned for. What looked to the casual observer like a simple, sweet act of childhood manners was actually something immeasurably heavier. It was not a staged publicity stunt, nor was it a calculated slight. It was the clearest, most profound signal yet of who the next generation of the House of Windsor has quietly decided to become. For nearly a decade, the public has watched Prince George as the future king, analyzing his every posture as the direct heir to the throne. Simultaneously, the media has treated his younger sister as a charming, delightful afterthought, the little girl who waves beautifully from the balcony, manages her younger brother Louis at public events, and smiles politely for wedding photographs. That interpretation was a catastrophic misunderstanding of who Princess Charlotte really is. What took place in the quiet gardens of Highgrove suggests that the child everyone overlooked may end up carrying the single most delicate and complex emotional inheritance in the entire royal family, the living memory of a grandmother she never got to meet, brought directly into a celebration for the woman whose name was once pitted against Diana's in the fierce battle of public imagination. The stakes of that single afternoon reach far past one birthday party. They touch the very core of how the royal family holds its own history, its private grief, and its long unresolved wounds. To understand why a small handful of blue wildflowers could instantly freeze a room filled with senior royals, one has to look closely at how a child becomes the emotional center of a dynasty without anyone consciously deciding it. One must look at why the flowers Charlotte chose carry a symbolic meaning that stretches back nearly 30 years. What Prince William has been doing behind closed doors to prepare his daughter for this exact moment, and how one unscripted act reopened the oldest, most sensitive question in modern royal history, the space between Diana, Camilla, and the family caught in the middle. Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana was born on May 2nd, 2015, on that crisp spring morning. When the official notice was placed on the easel outside Buckingham Palace, her third name was not a coincidence, a mere tradition, or a casual gesture. It was a fierce, deliberate decision made by a son who was determined to weave his late mother's identity into the very fabric of his daughter's life from the very first breath she drew. For years, that third name sat quietly in the official record, occasionally mentioned in royal biographies and then forgotten by the general public, until moments like this one make it feel extraordinarily deliberate again. As Charlotte grew up under the relentless glare of international attention, she remained, by careful design, the least understood of the three Wales children. Prince George has always carried the visible, formal weight of institutional succession. Prince Louis brings the bright, unpredictable energy that every long royal ceremony seems to desperately need. But Charlotte has always carried something far harder to define. Till recently, the palace machine seemed completely content to leave her in a soft-focus background, portraying her as the dutiful, well-mannered daughter. Between her birth and the present day, Charlotte has walked through state funerals, royal jubilees, grand coronation ceremonies, and high-profile international tours. Yet the public commentary surrounding her almost never moved beyond the surface level of how impeccably she behaved, how well her dresses matched, or how gracefully she performed her royal curtsy. She was viewed as the child who followed protocol flawlessly and then retreated quietly out of the camera's frame. That is precisely the kind of royal figure this institution has spent centuries looking right through. The polished, quiet ones rarely receive intense scrutiny because nothing on their surface seems to demand it. And yet, history proves that behind that exact wall of quiet composure, the most significant shifts are quietly taking place. What the world failed to notice during those years of public appearances was the meticulous, private work taking place behind closed doors at Adelaide Cottage and Kensington Palace. Those who follow the inner workings of the Prince and Princess of Wales's household know that William has been remarkably intentional about how his children come to know their grandmother. He did not want Diana to exist in their minds as a distant, legendary figure frozen in tragic black and white photographs or dramatic television documentaries. By all accounts, William kept her human, present, and woven into their daily reality. Her favorite records were played in the morning. Her legendary humor was recounted at the dinner table, and the specific flowers she cherished were planted in their private gardens, folded seamlessly into everyday life rather than reserved for solemn, tearful anniversaries. Royal biographers and family observers have long noted that of William's 3 children, Charlotte is said to resemble Princess Diana the most, not merely in her facial structure or the way she carries herself, but in her sharp, intuitive temperament. She possesses that same uncanny ability to read the energy of a room, to notice who is uncomfortable, and to act with a quiet, decisive confidence. If William spent years teaching his daughter that family grief does not have to be carried as a bitter, heavy grudge, but can instead be held with warmth, grace, and light, then the incident at Highgrove was not an unexpected shock. It was the very first public manifestation of a lesson that had been a decade in the making. To fully grasp the magnitude of what happened, one must also look at Highgrove itself. Highgrove is not just another grand royal estate. It is King Charles's absolute sanctuary. It is the house and garden he painstakingly built, shaped, and nurtured with his own hands over 4 decades. But Highgrove is also an estate heavy with the ghosts of the past. It was the backdrop to the most turbulent years of Charles and Diana's marriage. It holds the soil where past arguments took place, but it also holds a small, private memorial rose garden that Prince William has quietly maintained within a sanctuary, where the memory of Diana rests in peaceful isolation. Forget-me-nots carry an undeniable, sacred weight inside the royal family's private history of loss. They were Diana's favorite flowers, given to her by her brother Charles Spencer when they were children growing up at Althorpe. When the sunken garden at Kensington Palace was redesigned to mark what would have been Diana's 60th birthday, thousands of pale blue forget-me-nots were planted around her statue. When Prince Harry married Meghan Markle, forget-me-nots were hand-picked from their private garden to be included in the bridal bouquet as a silent nod to his mother. To pick a forget-me-not and place it anywhere near a royal gathering is never a neutral, meaningless act. Anyone old enough to remember the tragic summer of 1997 understands the emotional signal it sends, even when the child carrying the stem is simply following her own quiet heart. And then, standing at the center of this delicate moment, was Queen Camilla. For the better part of 30 years, the global press and the public media constructed a rigid, unyielding narrative surrounding the royal family. It was a narrative carved down the middle, Diana on one side, Camilla on the other, and the public was constantly instructed to pick a side. Camilla spent decades patiently, quietly, and without public complaint, attempting to help the monarchy move past that bitter binary. Royal historians have pointed out that Camilla made her peace long ago with the reality that her entire public life would be measured against the ghostly shadow of an icon. That was the deeply sensitive, historical ground upon which an 11-year-old girl stepped when she set down that small handful of blue flowers on July the 17th. The detail that captured the immediate attention of veteran royal watchers was that this moment was entirely unscripted and unstaged. The family's arrangements for Camilla's 79th birthday had been kept strictly private, a modest family lunch tucked away inside the estate gardens, rather than a formal, televised spectacle. There were no official palace photographers positioned along the lawn to capture a carefully engineered visual story. The single set of images that eventually reached the public eye was captured by a long-lens camera positioned well beyond the estate's outer garden wall. Whatever Princess Charlotte did on that afternoon, she was not doing it for an audience. She was not playing to a camera she could see, nor was she seeking the approval of a watching press corps. That single fact gave the moment an incredible, undeniable authenticity. It read as completely sincere, because, as far as the 11-year-old child knew, no one outside her immediate family was watching her walk toward those memorial roses. In the days following the gathering, court sources confirmed that Charlotte had explicitly asked to bring the flowers herself. The choice of forget-me-nots did not originate from a palace staffer, a nanny, or an adult handler trying to orchestrate a subtle political message. It came directly from the girl. An 11-year-old child connected her own middle name, the name of the grandmother she never knew, to the specific blue flower she had been taught to recognize, and decided on her own that a family gathering was an appropriate time to honor both the living and the dead. It was not the calculated move of a court strategist. It was the pure, unfiltered instinct of a child who had been paying far closer attention to her family's history than anyone gave her credit for. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the entire afternoon was how the adults in the room responded. Rather than causing a sudden awkward chill or a frantic effort by courtiers to usher the child away, the gesture was met with an extraordinary, quiet dignity. Observers noted that Queen Camilla's reaction was remarkably gracious and visibly moved. Camilla understood instantly what Charlotte was doing. She did not flinch. She did not take offense, and she did not view the presence of Diana's favorite flower as an intentional insult to her birthday. If those accounts hold true, then an 11-year-old girl, whom the public had long categorized as merely decorative, accomplished something that no adult in the House of Windsor had managed to achieve cleanly in public for nearly 3 decades. She held the memory of Diana and the presence of Camilla in the exact same frame, at the exact same time, without forcing anyone in that garden to choose between them. And yet, the emotional intelligence she demonstrated, the natural, effortless instinct to honor the past while respecting the present, rather than forcing a painful choice between the two, is the exact quality that the House of Windsor has struggled to find for an entire generation. It suggests that the long, painful reconciliation that the adults could never quite finalize in the glare of the public spotlight may ultimately be completed by the children. The children who inherited the profound historical weight, but completely refused to inherit the old bitterness and grievances that came with it. A grandmother's enduring name, a grandmother's favorite blue flower, and a quiet summer birthday at Highgrove that will now be remembered for something no one ever came to film. As the sun dipped below the horizon over the Gloucestershire countryside that evening, the blue posy remained at the foot of the memorial roses. The cameras had long since packed up, the correspondents had filed their standard birthday reports, and the palace gates were locked for the night. But inside the grounds, a quiet victory had been won. Prince William's long, private effort to raise his children with a healthy, loving connection to their late grandmother had yielded its first, undeniable public fruit. Princess Charlotte had proved that she is not merely a background figure in the grand royal drama, but a young girl possessing extraordinary emotional depth and remarkable poise. She did not seek permission from the palace press office, nor did she consult with image consultants. She simply walked across the lawn, carried her history in her hands, and placed it exactly where it belonged. In doing so, she gave the royal family and the watching world a masterclass in quiet dignity. She showed that honoring where you came from does not require diminishing where you stand today. As the House of Windsor navigates an uncertain future marked by health battles, generational transitions, and evolving public expectations, The moment at Highgrove offers a clear, steady beacon of hope. The future of the monarchy does not belong to old feuds, ancient rivalries, or rigid public relations strategies. It belongs to a new generation led quietly by a young princess who understands that love, memory, and respect are large enough to hold the past and the present together in complete, unshakable harmony.